Welcome to Mental Health Dumpster Fire. My name is Courtney Lover, licensed clinical social worker.
And I am Jess Miller. I'm an art therapist.
We are two therapists, and we have opinions, and we're here to share them with you. We're going to talk about whatever we feel like talking about. You can find us on social media, Mental Health Dumpster Fire on TikTok and Instagram. You can follow me at Lover Listens on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.
And I am the Artsy Brain on Instagram and Facebook. I had to think what the other one was called.
And this podcast is only for entertainment and education purposes only. It is not a replacement for therapy, and we cannot give you specific advice or clinical services via this podcast or our social media. And that's our disclaimer, so don't forget it. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Little tired today, but not too bad.
Yes.
Not too bad. What's new with you?
Nothing. We're recording later today, and I thought, I'm going to have so much time to get things done before Jess gets here. I didn't do nothing.
That's okay. You don't have to do anything before I get here. You can lay in bed right up until I get here. I don't mind.
I have things that I should do, so.
Yeah, I feel that task paralysis.
Yeah.
You have an appointment at a set time, but you can't get anything done until then because you're in the waiting period.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
What up, ADHD?
It sucks.
Yeah.
Well, what are we talking about today? Episode 8?
Is this 8? 7?
I think we're on 8.
Wow. We're almost in the double digits.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I did plug our podcast.
Ooh.
To a group of teenagers. So, if you're watching, hey!
That's a little terrifying. I'm a little scared now. No.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. I went to a panel event, like a career
panel
thing.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that we had a podcast, and then one of the kids was like, "What's your podcast called?" And I was like, "Okay."
Oh, well.
Look us up on YouTube.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Good. I keep forgetting to tell people about it, that we have a podcast.
Well, because we're always like 2 or 3 episodes ahead when we're recording, but
yeah,
it's just friends and family that are still listening to it right now, so it's gonna be weird. It's weird to like talk about it as if it's like a successful thing, which is what we should be doing.
Yes.
We should talk about it like it's going to be the way that we want it to be.
Yeah, I guess it is that weird thing where right now it's still like, friends and family, people we know are listening to it. And then, but like, there's a whole other, we want other people to listen to it, but it is kind of scary to tell a stranger like, oh, hey, I have a podcast.
Yeah, I'm a podcaster now.
Yeah.
We
cool.
have 3 listeners.
Wow.
Yeah.
2 subscribers or
We'll get there.
whatever.
We'll get there.
We'll get there eventually.
We have mic stands now, so like it's really only a matter
We're
of time.
so fancy now.
We're really upping the production level here. What are we talking about today?
Okay. So, BuzzFeed.
Oh.
I found a BuzzFeed thing.
Actually,
yeah, it's a click list or whatever. Someone sent it to me though. It was a friend of mine, I think, sent this to me, or they shared it in like their Instagram stories or something is where I saw it. But it is, I am concerned about the future. Seasoned educators are sharing the modern parenting trends that have got to go.
Ooh, okay.
So I thought that would be interesting. I read through it, and BuzzFeed, you guys use a lot of like GIFs and memes in between your paragraphs, which is fine, but it makes scrolling really hard.
Yeah.
So that's my only complaint on this. But so each little topic, an educator has like input of something that they don't think is great about parenting, like a parenting trend that they think is toxic. But then they offer an alternative or what they would like to see. So I thought that was really cool. It's not just complaining about parenting trends. These actual educators are like, hey, here's what we would like to see happen instead. So I thought that was a cool take on that.
Yeah.
My mom is a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher and change my mind, but I worked in education. I know a lot of teachers. Y'all hold a very close place in my heart. Educators really do a lot more than what is actually, like, you think of teachers are doing way more in the background than what you think.
Yeah.
Than, like, they should be, honestly.
Yeah. Teachers, I decided to go the social work route after being an assistant teacher for a year. So I feel like they're pretty linked.
Yes.
Especially if you work with kids.
Yeah.
And I feel like a teacher a lot of times now.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
talking to clients. So, and I have a lot of opinions about parenting.
Yeah. So do I.
Yeah.
So this is good.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. This is the BuzzFeed article. I am concerned about the future. Seasoned educators are sharing the modern parenting trends that have got to go. By Alana Valco. Recently, parents and teachers shared the modern parenting methods that they think are doing more harm than good. Since then, hundreds more teachers and educational professionals from the BuzzFeed community have come forward to write about their parenting opinions, including the bad and the good. Number 1, the parent principle, in quotations, parent principle. This parent believes that they have seniority and superiority over the teacher. They expect the teacher to meet their every request or demand. Inferentially, the parent subtly threatens the teacher by referring to the school principal by first name, or worse, CCing the principal to indicate, CCing as in an email, the principal to indicate that they are putting the bigwigs in the convo. And then, yes, someone actually did that to me. The best way to deal with this overbearing, narcissistic, and demeaning behavior is to take the high road, lead by example, and be a professional in the softest voice possible. Then CC all appropriate people. And this was submitted by an anonymous teacher. They had been teaching for 21 years.
What are your thoughts on that?
A lot. Been there for sure. Working in a school, I've had similar things happen. Yeah, it's one of those, like, it's one of those things that happens to teachers and educators, and then people are just like, oh, you just gotta deal with it. And I hate that because they shouldn't have to deal with that. They should be treated like professionals because they are professionals.
True.
They are not babysitters.
Yeah.
They went to school and probably got debt over this degree. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, and they're not getting paid enough to do it.
No, they are not.
Yeah.
So treating them, because that to me feels like you're treating them like a babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
That's the, like, mentality. I feel like it's what's happening there. You're not the parent bringing in the principal and using the principal's first name like they're buddies. That's just super gross.
Yeah, it's very much like, not only am I talking to your superior, but I am your superior because I know them.
And it's just like the parent is attempting to, like, establish that hierarchy, like they were saying, of like, I am superior. I'm up here with the principal and you're below me.
Yeah.
Which the principal is the, like, head of the school, but there's collaborative with the teacher. It's more of a team than a hierarchy, or it should be. Unfortunately, in some schools, it ends up being a hierarchy.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, in terms of like a boss-employee relationship, the principal to the teacher, I like being able to CC my boss on anything, like when I worked in an agency, because I know that I'm doing my job correctly, and I know that they're gonna have my back. So it's kind of like the bosses that I've had, thankfully, have been very supportive and will let me lead those things. And just having their name CC'd in the email lets the person that I'm talking to know, like, I know what I'm talking about. I am still in authority here.
Yeah.
And this person is backing me up.
Right.
By not saying anything, they're endorsing me.
Yes. And that just whole
It's gross.
it's just so gross. Like, I feel like this type of thing happens in a lot of other places, but it just feels extra gross when it's a teacher and a parent.
And when it's used as a threat like that. Like,
maybe
don't make me go to your boss about this. Like,
yeah.
if you can't have grown-up conflict with another grown-up, that's a you problem.
Yes. And I'm wondering too, like, what are some of these emails even about that are between the parent and the teacher? Because I know I would get emails from parents and it was just kind of like they're updating me with information about their kiddo, and like I'd just like send a thumbs up.
Right.
Like, thumbs up emoji, thank you. But then when it's like some kind of an attempt to boss the teacher around, coming from a parent trying to boss a teacher around, by bringing the principal in.
Yeah, and if it's something like, oh, you're not following my kid's IEP, then okay, bring the principal in because the teacher is not following the rules, basically.
It's illegal to not follow a child's IEP,
right?
In case y'all don't know that.
But if it's something like, oh, Johnny wanted the pink marker, and you didn't stop the whole class to make sure that he had it, do we really need to be bringing the principal in on this?
Yes. It makes me think of, in some of the like groups that I've led for kiddos, of like addressing if an issue is like a big deal issue or a little deal issue, and there's like a chart, and then you practice like, here's a hypothetical situation, where would it go on this chart?
Yes.
I feel like we need to do that to parents sometimes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, my friend sent me a TikTok today. It was kind of like that TikTok we watched last week about the gentle parenting yourself, but it was gentle parenting your uncle that is offended by men who wear nail polish. And she was like,
I think I've seen that one.
She was like, is this a big problem or a little problem? Does it hurt your heart or your body? No? Well, then it's a little problem, friend.
Yeah. Like, oh man, I just need I need parents before they email teachers about stuff to do like a real quick check-in of the situation, the who, what, when, where, why of this email. And
I think that's hard for them to do because, like, objectively, if you thought about this is a problem that you're emailing your kid's teacher about. You don't like the response that you got, so you're going to bring their boss in. You have to really think you are right.
Yeah.
And that this person's going to come in and back you up and reprimand their employee.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing too. Like, what do you think the principal's going to do about it? Cuz I don't know, from an education standpoint, the principal either doesn't do anything about it because they can't, or because it's not really something that they want to deal with, so they don't.
Yeah, they have a lot of things to do. That's why
they have a whole school to run.
Yeah.
So if it's like small issue like Johnny's pink eraser or whatever, the principal's going to be like if you need support, I'm here, but also I can't deal with this. But if it's something bigger, like not following an IEP, then the principal gets involved.
Right.
But yeah, like what do you think you're gonna get out of including the principal in this email, either by CCing them or by referring to them by first name? Like, do you
you're
think
just trying to be intimidating.
Yes.
You're trying not to bring the principal into it, but just scare the teacher into doing what you want them to do.
Right. It's like a power play manipulation tactic for sure.
Yeah. Not cool.
Not cool, guys. Don't do that.
Not mature.
Yes. Maybe that's what it is that makes it feel so icky to me. It's a parent who's an adult talking to a teacher who is also an adult. But the parent is not using proper age-appropriate methods of talking to another adult.
Yeah.
I think that's what bothers me.
It's not conflict resolution.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
That's why it needs to be a mandatory class in high school.
Honestly, yes. So here is what this teacher suggested doing instead, or here's what they agree with instead. Teachers and parents co-sharing student academics and classroom management. Once I called a parent about their son's behavior. They responded appropriately to what I said and how I said it and matched me with energy and understanding. When the student came to the school the next day, they immediately apologized, corrected their behavior, and had a good day. I immediately emailed the parent, let them know how well the student had responded to their critique of their behavior and not critique of that student. I think that's important here. I was pleased to see parent respond in a way that showed understanding that the behavior must be corrected for learning to take place. Too often the parent responds defensively when a teacher calls about child's behavior, usually because they're frequently inundated about the bad stuff. Mm-hmm. It is so important for teachers to call out a child's self-correction and include an email about how child's behavior has changed so that the parent feels better as well as the child. This builds better rapport and relationship between all concerned. Yeah, I very much agree with that.
Me too.
Especially with the framing of, I'm not calling you because your kiddo pushed another kiddo and that makes them a bad kid. I'm calling you because he got upset and reacted by pushing, and we need to address where that's coming from and let him know that, like, you're not a bad kid, but we need to, like, deal with anger in a different way, in a healthier way.
Yeah. And just like with therapy, the teacher can only do so much. Yeah, yes. They're with them a lot of hours a day, but they're also with 30 other kids for that same amount of time.
Yes.
They can't fix your kid by themselves. They need you to do the work at home.
And teachers can do... A teacher with 30 kids in their classroom is going to do their best to practice co-regulating and self-regulating, but at the end of the day, they are a teacher, they are an educator. They are not your kid's therapist. If your kid has behavioral concerns or needs that extend beyond that teacher's abilities, then they need go to a counselor, or they need to go to a therapist.
Yeah.
You can't expect a teacher to be perfectly able to manage every type of behavior that happens in the classroom.
Yeah.
Because there are some behaviors that are just completely out of teacher control or out of teacher's ability to deal with.
Yeah, or that might need an hour intervention.
Yeah.
And they just physically can't do that.
Right. There's too much going on in a school day.
Yeah. A lot of my clients come to me because they're having behavior issues at school. Yeah. And I love seeing those clients because I like to be able to know that they're being successful in every setting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, that's the cool thing about being a therapist to these kiddos that have behavioral issues at school. Because we get to work with them for the 45 minutes or for the hour, and then we hear from mom, dad, caregiver, parents, teachers about their progress and their success. And it's really cool that we get to, like, sit there and really, like, dig into what's going on with them for 45 minutes. Teacher can't do that.
Yeah.
Teacher's not trained to do that. And a teacher should not be expected to do that because they don't have 45 minutes in their day.
Yeah.
They barely get a lunch.
Yeah.
So.
And if the teacher has a 45-minute break a day and 30 kids to deal with, the principal has hundreds.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
And all the adults in the building. So.
And the principal is, like.
They really can't.
Bouncing around between meetings with parents, meetings with teachers, meetings with admin. Like, phew. They do so much in one day. It's crazy. Their schedules are wild.
Yeah.
This one's a little shorter. Letting the internet raise our kids. So instead of a caring, fun parent or mentor to grow empathy with and hands-on play, we have kids learning violence from movies, video games, and lacking basic math, reading, and life skills. This is written in by a substitute teacher for 25 years.
Yes.
Yeah. I get what they're saying. I think a lot of people push back on that because these what are we on now? Gen X, Gen A, Gen Z, whatever.
Yeah, we're on Gen Alpha.
Yeah. all y'all babies that are under the age of 16, those kids they've never not had the internet. They don't know what that's like. They've never not had video games or like iPads, stuff like that. So I get that you can't just never have them on a screen ever, period. It's gonna happen at school. They use screens at school for teaching.
Yeah.
And then it happens at home. So it's unavoidable. So you can't just completely cut it out. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you give them unlimited access to all of the internet or to video games.
Correct. Yes. There is a lot of really good educational videos, games, things where they have to use their brain to solve problems and stuff. But you really need to put that in front of your kid because they are going to gravitate towards the garbage.
Yep.
Because that's what our brains do.
It's like, it makes me think of like junk food. There's like junk food internet, junk food digital stuff. And like it's fun and it's fine in little bits, but if that's all you're taking in, it's not healthy. It's gonna rot your brain. So if you mix in junk food digital time with like educational things or educational stuff or just stuff that's like artistic too, like creative things, like watching tutorials on like how to, like those Bob Ross videos, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's not junk food. Food internet stuff. Yeah. So their suggestion, starting at birth with a smiling, laughing person to interact and do things with as baby grows. This is interesting. No screens, including TV, until mid-teens. I think that's going to be impossible. I like the idea. I like the sentiment. I don't know if it's realistic.
Well, I think the idea of that is if you're going to hold your kid to that standard, then you have no screens either. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Yes.
In today's world.
100% I agree.
Wouldn't happen with me.
No. And I mean, I grew up without internet, I think, until my mid-teens. But also I grew up, in the 90s and early 2000s. We didn't have internet for a little bit there.
Right.
Or like it's not the same, it's not as accessible as it is now.
Right. And it's not like you weren't allowed on the internet, but your parents were on it all day.
Right.
You were doing things together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you had other things to occupy your time.
Right. Yes. So I think it's near impossible to say absolutely no screens, no TV for your children growing up at this point in time. It's just impossible. Unless you're Amish, I guess. But they have phones.
Right. Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you want to do it, more power to you. But in addition to it being hard and you and the adults also having to have no screens, you also have to be prepared that they're not going to know what people are talking about. Like, until you're mid-teens.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I mean, we didn't have much TV either growing up. So I didn't have, like, Cartoon Network or anything like that growing up. So even though I am of the SpongeBob generation, I don't get SpongeBob references.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's going to happen to your... And I'm just thinking, too, like, when they're at school, they have Chromebooks and iPads and computers at school. And for, like, state testing, it's not on paper anymore. It's all on a computer. And a lot of their assessments for school are not on paper. They're on a computer. So, like, how are you going to do that? Like, are you going to have a note sent to school of my child's not allowed to have screens at school? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
How would that... I just don't know how that would work.
I don't know either. And, like, yeah, everything's more user-friendly now, but it's also, like, an important skill to know how to use technology.
Yes. Yeah. Like, putting on your resume that you can use Excel is not, like, a big thing anymore.
Yeah.
Putting on your resume that you know how to, like, code or know how to use, like, editing software, that's a bigger deal now.
Right. Yeah. I think it makes more sense to teach your kids limits and
Yes.
help them learn how to create routines and schedules and have a variety of interests and entertainment sources.
Yeah. And since it's pretty much unavoidable, your kid is going to be on using the internet at school or at home, they're going to have an iPad, whatever, then you teach them how to do that in a way that's healthy.
Yeah.
That's not going to negatively impact them later on.
Yeah. Because I could totally see that. I wonder if there will be research studies about this in the future. I could totally see somebody who didn't have access to anything, including TV, until their mid-teens, and then they are addicted to screens as soon as they're able to have one.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening too, especially because we live in a culture and a society where being chronically online is like the norm.
Yeah. And to be that, it's so overstimulating to go from nothing to, I mean, I don't know, you know, I'm sure the parents who go from nothing to screens would gradually introduce it, but I could see them just being totally zoned out and overstimulated by everything on a screen.
I immediately thought of the movie WALL-E, all the like blubbery people.
Yes.
That's what it makes me think of. That's kind of like the direction it would go.
I could see that.
Oh, love that movie, by the way. Oh, and then they suggest replacing screens with books, activities like sewing, cooking, gardening, kind of like more life skills kind of stuff, I guess is what they're going for.
I think that's great. I just think you can incorporate that. Like, I think you can incorporate that into a life that has screens.
Yeah, you can do both.
Yeah.
You can have a kiddo who uses screens and internet that also knows how to like sew or cook. I see what this teacher is getting at.
I get it.
I think I also
in
just
an
realized,
ideal world, that would be great.
Yeah.
But they're going to be interacting with kids who do not have limits to their screen time.
This teacher's also 76 at the time that they posted this. So there is that generational difference there. There's a generational difference. You know who they are. We don't need to name them. But they are of an older generation, and it is just really hard to talk to them about anything, really. Especially things like the internet and how to use it and how to raise your kids. So we'll just...
Yeah. I think kids need to know technology more than the older generation needs to know technology.
There's so much now in our day-to-day life that's dependent upon knowing or having the internet.
Yeah.
And knowing how it works and how computers work and stuff like that.
It doesn't seem realistic to me. Mid-teens.
No.
Maybe first 5 years.
Yeah.
But even then, they're going to see you watching TV.
Right. Yeah, and that's really key too, is like, especially younger kids, they learn from observing. So like if your little kid sees you on the phone all the time, then they're going to want to be on the phone or a screen all the time.
Yeah, they're going to model you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day because a parent asked me my opinion about screen time. And I was thinking, like, I did play with a lot of toys that didn't obviously have screens attached to them. I played outside a lot, but my family watched a lot of TV and still watches a lot of TV. That was just kind of part of our family culture. We watched TV, like that was how we spent time together. And I grew up in Arizona, so if it was too hot to be outside, we were inside watching TV. So
and I
had a lot of screen time. As you know, we didn't have like wireless things, but there was a lot of screen time.
And I think there's a difference too now where like growing up having family movie nights or watching TV together, you're together watching something. So there is a level of like family bonding happening there. But when you're all separately sitting different areas of the living room on your phones or iPads watching separate different things, it's not the same.
True.
It's not the same kind of bonding relationship building that you would get from everyone watching a movie together.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that's different nowadays too. Number 3, a children's librarian for 8 years. They're 34 years old. And they said, God, so many parenting tactics drive me up the wall. I think the biggest one during the summer is just how willing parents are to drop their kids off at the public library for a full 8 hours when we're open. Hell, I've seen kids get dropped off before we open and have to wait outside in the heat in Florida.
No.
Ooh. All because the parent can't or won't look into options for childcare. We are a library, not a babysitter. I could get paid more to be a nanny or babysitter, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yet people drop their kids off with us and leave them here all day. So a perspective from a librarian rather than a teacher.
That sounds like neglect. It's not a camp.
That's what I was thinking too. I do understand, like, there are some situations where parents are working like a weird shift job and they don't have childcare, and they don't have money for childcare, and they have maybe like a child who's 13 and then a couple ones younger, so they drop the 13-year-old off at somewhere like a library with the younger ones and then pick them up later in the day or whatever. I can see that kind of a situation being, not that it's okay, but
no,
it's kind of like
right.
doing what you gotta do.
Yeah, you're right. If they don't have the resources for a camp or a daycare, because those are expensive.
Yes.
If they can't pay a babysitter a full day's work, I can see how a library might look like a good option.
Because there are adults present.
It's free.
And if there's a children's section, there's always a children's section, but there's usually a children's librarian there.
Yeah.
So you know that there's going to be eyes on your kids.
Kind of. I mean, I don't know that you know that. I know that there are adults there, but if they don't know that child's not being supervised, it's not their job to supervise the kids. You're supposed to be there with your kid.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
So there needs to be more options for free daycare.
Yes. There needs to be like free day camp type situations, which I will say libraries do offer like classes and workshops through the summer, but I'm almost 100% sure a parent has to be present for the duration. And that's gonna be not a drop-off situation.
Yeah, and that's going to be like an hour. So
yeah, not a whole day.
Yeah, if you're dropping your kid off at the like, where do you expect them to have lunch? Like,
yeah,
what's your plan here?
Yeah, I don't know.
But I get it at the same time. If you don't have
don't have the resources, you're just doing what you need to do to make it work. Yeah. But it sounds like in this case, parents are working during the day and don't want to pay for childcare, and or / maybe parents are going to the library, dropping their kids off, and they're going to run errands or whatever. I've seen that happen too. And I mean,
and honestly, yeah, I get it, because there are adults there, so I could see how in your mind they're not just gonna let a kid wander off, whereas if you left them at home alone, who knows what could happen.
Yeah, and it's a public space, so there are like policies or whatever in place for if something were to happen at the library. But then you're putting a lot of pressure and expectation on a librarian. Yeah. Again, like with the teachers. You're putting a lot of expectation on them that is not part of their job and shouldn't be part of their job.
Yeah, there needs to be more resources for people who can't afford to send their kids to camp, because even camps sometimes are like 4 hours. If I work 8 hours, how am I going to get my kid?
Yeah, I used to work at an arts center, at a community art center, and in the summertime they had it set up to where you could sign up your kid for one camp that was all morning and then another one that was all afternoon, or like an afternoon one that and then a separate one that was evening. Like they made it work so that you could sign your kid up for 2 camps. It would cover your work shift, which was great, but it was expensive.
Yeah.
It was expensive because not only is it you paying people to watch your kid for a chunk of time, they're doing like an art class or theater or music or something. So they have to pay the dues or the fees for that as well. But yeah, there definitely need to be free or like heavily discounted cheaper options for
they need to have
daycare situations.
Yeah, they need to have scholarships or something.
Would be great.
Yeah, because they should be able to do the camps.
Yeah, because otherwise they're getting dropped off at a library, and I mean, I guess it is technically a safe space. Libraries are safe spaces and stuff like that, but like, man,
it's a safe space, but like, I'm sure they're mandatory reporters. Like, are they gonna have to call in neglect if there's a child there that's not being supervised? Their parent just left them there.
And so the librarian talking about people dropping kids off at school at the library in Florida over the summer before they're open. That's crazy. So hot.
Yeah, that's bad.
So hot. 90% of them don't have lunch or anything to eat, and they rarely even know their parents' phone number. They don't even have their own phone. Yeah, fair enough. It's one thing if the kid's a bit older, like we were talking about, say 14 up, but I've had kids as young as 7 try to be dropped off to spend the day at the library. And it's not like the kids are coming in and reading or participating in events. They just spend their whole time on Roblox. Most of them barely listen to our rules. They scream, yell, run, and when they get their 3 warnings, and then they explain the 3 warning system is 3 warnings and then the computers get turned off. If they get those 3 warnings, they have tantrums, and they really do not understand no and not getting what they want. Again, parent dropping their kid off with a librarian and then basically expecting the librarian to deal with whatever the kid is doing is outside of the librarian's job description.
Yeah.
100%. They're not a babysitter, and it sounds like some of these kids could use some counseling, and that's not part of their job either.
Yeah, it sounds like a systemic thing. The more that I think about it, it doesn't sound as much like a parenting issue. It sounds like the parent is doing what they feel they are able to do with what they have.
Yeah.
And there's just not any options for them. So that sounds like a policy issue.
Yeah.
More than a parenting issue.
Yeah. And a library is a public space. So, it's not like illegal for kids to be there or anything.
Well, I don't know. But for a 7-year-old to be there unsupervised, I don't know. I don't think CPS would like that.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. And they don't have maybe that's their policy, like 3 warnings. But, like, I would imagine that most libraries don't have policies like that because they assume that parents are going to be there with their kids. And they can ask the parent to leave.
They don't need a 3 warning system to turn computers off because they're not having the issue of unsupervised children.
Yeah.
So, number 4, unparenting / friending your child. Yeah, I felt a vibe from you of like being a cool parent or the yes parent, showering them with things, saying yes to inappropriate requests with little to no boundaries, believing that saying no is a bad thing, attacking anything or anyone who attempts to establish rules or expectations a child deems unfair or too hard, just didn't want to do. It's creating children who cannot thrive in real-world situations that require hard work, critical thinking, and adaptability. Children are having major emotional regulation problems because parents shelter them from negative experiences and point the finger at others. They don't learn to be accountable for their actions. This is a educator for 20 years. They are 45 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I think that relationships with your kids should be open and friendly, but still have boundaries and a separation of this is my role as a parent, this is your role as a child, and it is not reasonable to say yes to everything your child wants. It is not reasonable that they never have to do things they don't want to do or have responsibility, because how is that setting them up for success in adulthood?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of parents who do that are parenting from trauma or guilt or fear, and that they need to work through that on their own.
Yeah. Yes. I think too, unparenting and friending your child, being the cool parent, could come from a parent who grew up completely the opposite.
Yeah.
Grew up in a very authoritative household. And so they don't want that for their kid. But being the opposite, if you're trying to do different than how you were raised by doing the opposite of how you were raised, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work or be good long term for your kiddo. Yeah, and I get that it's really hard to tell a kid no, especially a toddler, because one, they're cute, and two, if they hear no, they get really upset, and it's a whole thing. But if they get used to hearing no and get used to hearing the why behind the no,
Yes.
then it's not a problem anymore.
Yeah.
They learn the why behind the no, and then they get over it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fine, and it's not a problem ever again. Oh, well, not ever again, but it's not as big of a problem anymore.
Yeah.
If you just say no, then you're going to get the tantrums and the tears and the whole shebang. But if you say no and tell them the why, they'll probably be upset and a little mad. But in the end, it's not going to impact their behavior. It's not going to fuel that, like, tantrum throwing behavior.
Yeah. And I think there are some caveats to that, because there are some parents who don't understand that their younger children don't know how to reason the same way that adults do.
Yeah.
And so you can't explain to a 4-year-old all the time exactly what the reason is why they're saying no. It's just a rule that they need to follow.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think that parents can say no to their kids without it being a big deal and without it sounding like a big authoritative thing. Yeah. And I think in addition to that, I think there's like the really permissive unparenting parents are forgetting that, like, there are, just because you're not saying yes to everything doesn't mean you're saying no to everything.
Right.
There are lots of parents who aren't of the mindset of saying, like, they don't want to spoil their kids, they don't want to have entitled kids, but there are a lot of, like, they're not picking their battles. They're asserting their authority over everything, even if they're not doing it in, like, a cold way. But there are still, like, times when it's like, do you really need to pick a fight over this thing? Like, is it really that big of a deal?
Yes. And like you're saying, like, there are kids when they're really little, like, you can't reason with them the way you can reason with a teenager. And I mean, you can't reason with a teenager sometimes. I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes there are some things they just don't, they love you guys, but you don't see the reason. And yeah, like picking your battles. Like, is this really something where it like is going to impact my kiddo long term if I let up on this, or if I tell them no on this? Or is it like they just wanted a second helping of cereal and like, you know, they're not going to eat it all and it's going to get soggy or have to throw it away? But I mean,
Right. Is it the end of the world?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they have to earn everything?
Yes.
Can they have a little treat sometimes just because they're
just
being cute?
Yeah. just because I just wanted to give you some ice cream, whatever. Yeah, because if they grow up feeling like they have to earn everything that they want, or they have to earn everything in their life, that's not great, because then they're going to be an adult that thinks that way.
But on the opposite side, they're not entitled to everything that they want.
Correct.
It's a balance.
Yes.
And it's hard to find the balance. But I don't think it needs... But I think on both extremes, really strict parents and really permissive parents must be thinking a lot about their parenting choices. And how they like, well, I have to say yes to everything. I have to let them do what they want because they need to like me.
Yeah.
And like, that's a lot of effort, and your kid's gonna turn out to be a brat.
And they're not gonna like you all the time.
It's just
it's
not
totally
possible.
normal.
Yeah, you don't have to like your friends all the time. Like, not everybody is likable all the time.
Some people are just really annoying in the moment, and you just have to be like, okay, you're annoying me, but I still love you. It's fine.
Yeah.
Kids are like that too. Here's what they agreed with instead. Positive parenting and the family functioning model.
Yeah.
It builds strength in individuals, focuses on healthy boundaries, putting family unit first. Positive strength-based approach, not authoritarian or passive. Children and families work on building core values, communication, respect, integrity, and accountability.
Oh, yeah. I think I was using the wrong word that whole time. I think it's authoritarian, and authoritative is the balance of permissive.
Okay.
So scratch everything.
Just replace it. Just
that
know
word.
that we meant authoritarian.
Yeah, authoritative is the kind of parent you want to be. It has the balance of warmth and high expectations. Authoritarian is the super strict, no warmth parent.
I think of it as being like a dictator to your children.
Yeah, I just always get the words mixed up because they're too similar.
They're literally two letters separating them.
Yeah,
I think
they're really too similar, and I always forget. But positive parenting, love it. It's very much like explaining the reason for things, and giving them more responsibility, so that it's not always like, you're doing this because I told you to do it. No, you're doing it because you are a member of this family and we all pitch in together. And instead of me telling you 12 times to brush your teeth, I'm going to say, what do you need to do so that we can be ready for school? And giving it to them. So, yeah. I really enjoy it.
It's gentle parenting with like a little bit of like more push and sass, I feel like. Maybe
yeah,
sass,
and it can be done without, like, because people hear gentle parenting and they think, like,
permissive.
That it's the permissive, unparenting friend, be your friend to your kid, and it's not. It's just being more positive instead of always feeling like discipline is punishment. Yeah. And making your kid feel miserable so that they learn not to do it. When really you're trying to teach them why they shouldn't do what they're doing.
Yes.
Not so they're scared of you.
Yes. Yeah. Long story short, telling your kid the why behind the request or behind the no is going to work out better for you in the end, for you and your kid.
And it doesn't have to be a long why. It could just be like that's too far away. I need you to hand that to me.
Yeah. Or just like safety.
Yeah. That's the thing I was thinking about with the permissive, with the saying yes to everything. If you have a moment where your kid runs into the street and you panic and you say, don't ever do that again, they're going to freak out.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not used to you talking to them like that.
Yeah.
And now you want to be an authority?
Yeah. Gosh. Didn't even think about that, yeah. Because how are you supposed to be a yes parent when your kid is running out in the middle of the street?
Yeah.
You can't. You got to tell them no. And then, yeah, if all they heard of is yes, I get to do whatever I want, whenever I want, impulsively, and now you're telling me no, that completely takes my world and flips it upside down.
Right. And they're not going to respect anybody else's authority either. You're going to send them to school, you're going to send them to camp, and they're going to run off and do whatever they want and then get mad because the adults are saying, no, you need to follow the rules.
Yeah, they're going to get mad, or they're going to think something's wrong with them. They're going to think they're a bad kid.
Yep.
So, okay, number 5. Teaching your children about real historical events and other people's cultures and perspectives is not us having a political agenda or trying to brainwash your kids.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, so just a reminder, this is a teacher talking about it, but amen. People and children need to learn how to have an educated conversation and exchange ideas in a respectful way. You are doing your child a disservice by shielding them from everything you deem unworthy or does not fall within your realm of your opinion. Plus, if we could brainwash your kids, we would get them to bring their pencils to class. But since we can't do that, that's not the case. This is from an English teacher, been teaching for 5 years. And then they say, I think paying attention to a child's social and emotional well-being is important, especially in this tech-based society. Kids have to face challenges with negative impacts of technology, and we never had to. I'm happy that mental health is something that's widely talked about and accepted generally, in quotations. But yeah.
I think it's hard for some parents to learn that the way that we were taught when we grew up is not necessarily correct.
Mm-hmm.
And that now people are trying to correct it and teach it the way that it actually happened so that kids understand, and they interpret that as you're either not teaching them the truth because it's not what they learned, or you're trying to make them feel bad about it, which, like, that's what happened. I don't know what to tell you.
And I think we've seen a change in education in the past 50-ish years where, man, I could do a whole other podcast on this, but World War I, World War II, all that stuff, we kind of were just kind of cranking kids out through school, right? So they go to school, and they sit, and they learn all day, and then they leave school, and they either join the workforce or they go to college, do the same thing, you know, rinse, lather, repeat. We're just cranking out kiddos out of school. And what happens is that they are taught that that is how it's going to be and how it will always be, and that it's not going to change, and so they need to keep doing it. And so if you're teaching them incorrect history, inaccurate history, then that's just going to keep getting perpetuated over and over. Like, it's just going to never end.
Yeah. If
that's how you think education should work. And now we're starting to see within the past, like, 10, 20 years that people are trying to teach things to the most accurate level possible. So teaching history with the facts, all of the facts, not just one perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially with history, because that was my, I was going to do a history degree when I went to college the first time, but kind of unlearning what you learned in high school was most of what my history classes were about in college.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that I learned in high school were inaccurate and outdated, and were also, you know, that kind of cliche thing or statement, whatever, that you hear, that history is taught from the winner's perspective. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't teach American history before the Revolution. And if they do, it's like a day. They teach it for a day.
And then they simplify it.
Yeah. They simplify
One
it
boat.
so much. Yeah. We all came over on the Mayflower.
Yeah.
There were no other boats. There were no other white people here before that. And there were no other people before us, actually.
And the ones that were, they loved it.
Yeah.
They were so excited.
They loved that we were here. And we brought all of these food and medicines for them.
Right. Not smallpox.
In blankets. We brought this medicine for them that they needed, that they didn't need before we got here, because we infected them with stuff like smallpox and like the common cold wiped them out and things like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, again, a whole other podcast about the propaganda education system that we live in right now. But teachers are just trying to teach your kids the facts right now. And that doesn't mean that the teachers are trying to brainwash your children. Mm-hmm. They're literally trying to tell them what actually literally happened and the consequences of those events. That's it.
Yep.
And then you let your kid, or the teacher's thinking is that then the kids think about it and decide how they feel about it and what to do with that information.
Yeah. And I know that the people who are throwing a fit about this kind of stuff are not going to see it this way, but a big part of what they are saying is like, well, I don't want my kids to feel guilty because they're white and the white people did this to them. And I'm like, okay, how do you think the black kids felt when they were told, like, oh, some of the slaves liked being slaves? Really?
I know. Like, that is just so...
We were the bad guys, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. Fix it. That's why we're teaching you correctly, so that you can correct it.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, man. When you've been the oppressor for so long that you don't know what it's like to be oppressed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're at that point now. But yeah, like, and also too, I was thinking about like the like human sexuality side of it. So kiddos in school now are, I would say in this day and age, kids that are experimenting, questioning, about their sexuality and their sexual identity or gender identity. It's a lot more open now, and a lot more like school is a place you could talk about that.
Yeah.
There are definitely places where school is not the place to talk about it because it's not safe there anymore. Yeah. Wasn't that legislation in Florida that was like the no don't pronouns? Say gay, or the don't oh my gosh. Yeah, the you can't use pronouns thing. Do you know what I think that was Florida. What kind of idiots are making these laws where you don't even know what a pronoun is? You can't not have pronouns. I mean, these idiots got voted in somehow to these positions of power. Yeah. It's hard to not be political and to also treat people for their mental stability, because it's very dependent upon the society you live in. And when the society you live in is politically kind of shit, it's really hard to not talk about it. So yeah. I'm just saying that as like a caveat to people that are like, I don't want to talk about politics or I don't want to listen about it. It's kind of unavoidable right now. Mental health is political because everybody deserves to be treated with equity, and we have to correct some things that have been going on. And as a social worker, I'm going to do that. So that's the whole like definition of social worker. Yeah. So yeah. But yeah. So in Florida, they passed some kind of legislation that they could not use pronouns, or like they couldn't refer. It was something to do with pronouns, but it was like written vaguely enough that people were like, but like, can I not use any pronouns? Right. Or can I use, like, what's happening? Right. Because I'm sure you're fine with calling the cisgender kids he and her. So what's the issue here?
Right. Like,
And
just say what you mean.
Yeah. And I know in the state of Kentucky that if you're in a school building and a student brings up anything to do with human sexuality or gender, you have to tell them we can't talk about this at school. And it's so like specifically written that it's really hard to get a loophole around it.
That's terrible.
They definitely did their research and spent their time to get that crap through. So that means that we can't talk about gender identity or sexuality in school. It also means that we, I guess, don't teach sex ed anymore in school.
Not that we were teaching it correctly.
Oh no. I mean, I grew up here in Kentucky. Sex ed was not super great when I was in public school. Thank God I had parents who gave me the sex ed that I needed, right? That knew what they were doing, but the school did not provide it for me. And it's apparently worse now because you can't talk about it at school. And God, you just can't avoid talking about humans, talking about people, or being a person without having to talk about all facets of that person.
True.
So I don't get it.
Me neither.
It's not brainwashing. Also, I love if we could brainwash your kids, we'd get them to bring pencils to class.
Yeah.
There's other priorities teachers have.
Yeah.
Okay, there's 14. We're like halfway through.
Oh, goodness.
So maybe we need to do the other half next time, but
we can, yeah.
Let's do one more. Okay. This is from a retired third grade teacher of 12 years. They are 62. So they wrote in, I had just finished my last year of teaching, although I didn't plan it that way. As a mother, grandmother, teacher, and nurse, I've seen it all. This year, though, I had some of the best and worst students ever due to differences in parenting styles. I had students who would look into my eyes and lie, steal from their classmates, and steal from me, and cheat on tests without remorse. When I met my students' parents, I could tell exactly why my students were the way they were, for better or worse. Some of the parents themselves behaved with breathtaking disrespect, rudeness, and gall. I could give you more than a few reasons for the current teacher shortage. I am very concerned about the future of classroom education in the face of the societal changes that have taken place over the last 15 to 20 years, especially in the areas of parenting.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, if you are a parent or a caregiver to children, the way you walk, talk, act, behave, your kids are going to see that and they're going to do it. Because that's how they learn.
And it's our generation that are the parents.
That's the other thing, too, that I find absolutely wild.
I'm embarrassed for us.
Yeah. It's our generation that are having these kids that are acting this way. And I'm just like, where did this come from?
Get it together, folks.
Y'all, what is happening? We all watch Disney Channel and, like, learn better from that. And where is this coming from?
Yeah. Was it like, I mean, it's not me, so it's not the way I was parented, but like.
I don't have kids, so I don't have a horse in this race, but.
I don't know. But yeah, I don't know how we ended up like this. I think a lot of it is the rapid rise of technology and letting that babysit the kids, and the parenting from guilt and not wanting to, wanting to be the kids' friends instead. Yeah. But there are some rude parents out there who just do not take accountability.
Yes. I don't know why I thought of this, but you've seen the movie Clueless, right? Mm-hmm. And what's her face? Whatever her name is, that's the main character. Cher. The way her dad treats her and the way she was raised is I feel like, well, I don't know if it's being an exaggerated version, but I feel like it's kind of similar to how I feel like some of these parents are trying to raise their kids. Like that, like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, she gets everything she wants, and when she doesn't, daddy fixes it for her, and he fixes it for her through aggression and threats.
Yeah, and money.
And money.
Right. Just kind of was like, okay, I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Which is a great movie. It's hilarious, but
and she's not like a terrible person.
no, she's not. She turned out pretty great, actually.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's a movie. We're not going to live up to an ideal from a movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's kind of the, like, vibe of some of these parenting things that we're seeing where it's like the parents just come in and reprimand the teacher for not teaching well.
Right. When
their kid didn't even come to
house,
school. Yeah.
If it's clean, it's because the parents did it. The kid's doing whatever they want. The kid is being disrespectful to the parents, and the parents are like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
He has a strong personality. And
yeah.
It's just like,
I guess.
No. No,
he's a 12-year-old that's never been told no in his life.
Yeah, you can have authority over your kid without being abusive, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Telling your kid, no, they can't do that, or you need to not behave this way, you need to behave a different way, that's not mean. You're teaching your kid how to be a person, to be a human in this world. And sure, they might not like what you have to say all the time, but, like, c'est la vie. I don't like what people tell me all the time either.
Yeah, that's why it's like, it's surprising, but not surprising, but it's like, why are there adults out there acting like this?
Yeah, I mean, you could spend the rest of your life going back generations of these parents' lifetimes and looking at how they were raised and how their parents were raised and their grandparents and where they come from and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's partly learned behavior and partly choice.
Yeah.
I have to say, you can choose to keep going that same direction, or you can choose something different.
Yep.
So.
And that's why I like teaching parenting classes.
Yeah.
To help people break cycles.
There's a reason that I, very quickly was like, I'm not going to be a teacher anymore.
Yeah, I'm much better one child at a time, please.
Yeah. Even in groups, I'm like, if there's more than 5, I'm like,
Yeah.
I think I'm okay.
I need some backup here. Yeah.
Yeah. The expectations that people put on teachers does not match the job description of teachers.
Absolutely.
That's sad.
Yeah. Well, should we do a quick recommendation corner?
Yes.
Okay, my recommendation this week is a podcast. It's called A Slob Comes Clean. And it is a game changer for people who have trouble cleaning like me.
Ooh, okay.
The episodes are relatively short. They're like 30 minutes, and they are very digestible. She just gives very straightforward tips, and so like the episode that her most recent episode is episode 421.
Oh my God.
And it's called How to Get Motivated. And it was just like magical, because she puts in here, she's talking about like changing your goal, starting with things that are going to be the most visible so that you feel more motivated because you can see that the room is getting cleaner. And then choosing one small task that you can finish so that you feel accomplished, like you finished something. Even if the whole room isn't done, you've done one thing that's complete.
Yeah.
And then like other episode titles, she's got like one of these is called Put a Party on Your Schedule. Brilliant.
Oh, to motivate cleaning your house.
Yeah. Adjusting to not panicking at the thought of a doorbell. I do that all the time.
I do that even my house is clean, though.
Yeah. When all the projects take over your house, or resting when necessary.
Yes.
Yeah. Honestly, it's just like they're very digestible. Sometimes she does like Q&As where people can write in about their specific problems.
Yeah.
She talks a lot about like decluttering, which to me is different than cleaning. Because cleaning to me is putting things back, and decluttering is getting rid of things in my brain. And I think that's how she describes it too.
Okay.
But it is very just like things where I listen to it, I'm like, I could do that today. And so it motivates me to actually do these things. And I hate cleaning. So
me too, yeah.
It's a good listen. A slob comes clean.
A slob comes clean. Yeah, that system of like putting away the things that are easily to put away that you can see about that's something that I kind of recommend for clients with like struggling with executive functioning type stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you do this stuff that's going to give you the like fastest dopamine when you do it.
Yeah.
And then you just build on it.
Yeah.
And you just keep going.
Yeah. And that's what I need. I don't think there is a book about cleaning that is specifically written for neurodivergent people. I don't think she does that, but she's just like, she's very much like, if you're busy, if you have a lot going on, if there's a lot of kids in your house, like here's how you can manage cleaning on top of all the other responsibilities you have in your life.
That's cool.
Yeah. So her name is Dana White, and she's got a website, she's got books, she's got this podcast, she's got a blog, she's got videos.
That's awesome.
She's a genius.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I need that. Okay. So mine is a TikTok account, but it is specifically a series within a TikTok account. So the account is, the creator's name is Sam McDonald. I believe they're in Australia. And the series is called Cooking with Maisie. And so she has this small baby who does cooking with her. The cooking videos are just adorable and entertaining. But we talked about before of like, I hate playing with my kid because I don't like the way they play, or like I don't want to play the thing that my kid wants to play with. And I thought that is like a good example of like how you can spend time with your kid without it having to be an arts and crafts project where glitter is thrown everywhere or slime ends up in the carpet.
Yeah.
And I loved like the baby is involved in like as many steps as possible in making little pizza rolls.
Yeah.
And mom was really good about like using the gentle parenting and positive parenting of like, oh, we don't eat that right now.
Yeah.
And like of stopping her without telling her no. Like we were talking about explaining the why before saying no. So I really like those videos because they're cute and adorable and some nice quick recipes too, which is fun.
Yeah.
But just a really good example of like how you can spend some time with your kiddo without it having to be other kinds of play. And then you're also teaching your kids some cooking skills, which is really cool. And involving them in the process of making their food also makes it more likely that they're going to eat it.
Yes, that's true.
If you've got a picky eater at home, if you include them in the process of making food, sometimes that's just one of the big things that gets them to actually eat it, is if they get to make it.
That's very true. And it was something that she was gonna do anyway, probably.
Yeah.
And maybe it took her a little longer than if she had done it by herself, but it was more fun for both of them.
Yeah. Some good quality time, and it was fun. And then they got a snack out of it, which is great.
Yeah. Oh, baby was so smart.
She's a very smart baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Sam McDonald is the creator's name, the mom's name, but it's specifically the Cooking with Maisie videos. She has all kinds of like little parenting cute videos, but the cooking ones are my favorite.
Cool. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us today. Make sure you subscribe and share us with all of your friends and family.
Rate, review, subscribe. Whoops.
All those things. Subscribe.
Rocky.
And yeah, share us so that we can grow and help other people find answers to mental health questions that they might have had.
Or discover new things that they didn't know.
Yes. Leave suggestions for us, things that you would like us to talk about. And if you are watching on YouTube, leave us a comment about screen time.
What are your thoughts, opinions?
Yeah. Do you have experience with too much or too little screen time? And what do you think is the right balance? Debate it.
Yeah. How do you use it, or how do you not use it? Do you have unlimited screen time? What's that look like?
Yeah. Just be kind to other people in the comments. And yeah, we want to know your opinions. And join us next week.
Bye.
Bye.